I am 5 feet 3 inches tall and weigh 100 pounds. My boyfriend struggled to pick me up. We were out in a group one night, and he ran to pick me up but dropped me in front of everyone. He also said I would be skinny at 80 pounds and then he could do it. Is this really that heavy for a girl? I am kind of shocked. He is now my ex. For the people getting upset, I did not break up with him because of this incident. He cheated on me along with making comments about my weight. It had nothing to do with strength or me judging him for that. Story 1. Picking up 100 pounds at an unusual angle can certainly throw even strong individuals off balance and lead to injury, but his comment is very inappropriate. 5 feet 3 inches and 100 pounds is quite petite. Story 2. You are under normal weight. 80 pounds would likely be considered unhealthily thin. I would say it is a good thing he is an ex, as he was covering for not being strong enough by putting you down. Story 3. That is not very heavy for a girl. Maybe he does not know how to lift with his legs. It is harder to tell if he should be able to do it without knowing his age and other information. Story 4. I picked up my wife at 2:30 before. I think your former boyfriend needs to start by lifting weights. No able-bodied man over the age of 14 should struggle to lift a 100-pound person. Story 5. 100 pounds is lightweight. Even a man who does not work out should be able to handle that for a bit. For reference, that is less than half the weight I use for bench press, pelvic thrusts, deadlifts, or barbell shrugs. Story 6. I'm going to be polite and not make the joke about you having two of your lady parts, one on you and the other one on him. There is a bit of technique to scooping someone up without hurting them. He is also, honestly, probably not very strong. In his defense, dropping his girl in front of people makes him look like a giant wimp, so he lost some manly face there. On the other hand, you are 5 feet 3 inches and 100 pounds. You are at a healthy weight, honestly a bit skinny, and at 80 pounds would be literally underweight. Glad he is an ex. For God's sake, please do not lose any weight. If anything, odds are you could stand to gain a bit. Story 7. It sounds like he was weak or ignorant. A grown man in okay condition should be able to lift a 100-pound person. Leverage and position are important as well. Story 8. Your boyfriend should not have any issues carrying you around the house if he wanted to, whether he works out or not. Story 9. I can pick up my nephew who weighs 120 pounds. Your boyfriend needs to go to the gym. 100 pounds is nothing. Story 10. No, he was very weak. I regularly pick up my wife so we can be intimate against the wall sometimes, and she weighs 160 pounds. Story 11. My dog weighs 120 pounds and is a squirming dead weight. I pick him up all the time. He needs some milk or a can of spinach. Story 12. Everyone is different. I used to be able to pick up my then 130-pound girlfriend when we were dating. She is not the same weight, and I am not as strong as I used to be. Most young, fit men should be able to pick up a 100 or 120-pound woman without much effort. But 80 pounds is the weight of a child or a statistically small woman. Saying that is both rude and unrealistic. Story 13. I regularly lift steel bars weighing between 125 and 175 pounds at work. A 100-pound woman would actually be easier to lift, as she would not be lifted from the floor and is not 12 feet long. I do not work out regularly, but I have a physical trades job, so I might have slightly above average strength. However, I definitely do not think 100 pounds is too heavy. Story 14. I am recovering from a 2-year period of malnutrition, so losing 60 pounds is a bit of a struggle for me, unfortunately. Story 15. If by heavy we mean the maximum I can do for a single repetition, my deadlift personal record is 510 pounds, so I guess around there. Story 16. Depends on the lift. A basic princess carry? No, especially if you put your arms around his neck to give him a little help. A curl? Maybe, but I could do it with some body English. A lateral raise? Yes, that is a lot. Story 17. If your boyfriend is old enough to have a girlfriend, he should be strong enough to pick up a 100-pound girl. Not being able to pick up 100 pounds is very weak for a guy. Story 18. I am 43 years old and use 80-pound dumbbells for my bench press. That is in each hand. He needs to go to the gym and stop blaming you. Story 19. If it is a person, maybe closer to 75 to 80 kilograms for a bridal carry. Like 100 pounds, which is already a very low weight of 45 kilograms, would be a walk in the park, to be honest. Story 20. 100 pounds? Laugh out loud. Is your boyfriend very slim? I could lift that much weight when I was 14 years old. Tell your boyfriend to start doing some push-ups and general exercises. Story 21. I can easily pick up my girlfriend, and she is around your weight and height. Boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, needs to hit the gym if he cannot do that. Story 22. 100 pounds in a 5'3" body is easy to pick up. Not just easy, it is extremely easy. Sure, I have lifted my whole life, but even my non-gym friends can lift their wives. This actually makes me laugh. I am glad you broke up with him. That is just hilarious. Story 23. I am a naturally strong person. I do not go to the gym. I was just born that way, as were all the men in my family. I have never had trouble picking up heavy things. I am also stubborn, another trait of my family, so I do not give up easily, even when I should. However, I have noticed that even with the same or similar weights, genders differ when lifting. For example, one of my friends is about 5 feet 10 inches tall and weighs 260 pounds, which is 30 pounds heavier than me. I can easily lift him off the ground and carry him around. I have only done it once with both hands, but I bet I could get him up with just one hand. My girlfriend is about 5 feet 5 inches tall and weighs a similar amount to my previously mentioned friend, but she feels heavier than him. I can still lift her easily enough, but she feels heavier, and I need to use both hands to lift and usually both hands to hold her up, despite her being lighter than him. I am not sure why, but that has been my experience. Another example is my best friend, who is about my height. I am about 6 feet 1 inch tall, probably closer to 6 feet, and my friend is about 6 feet tall. He weighs between 150 and 160 pounds. I can easily pick him up and carry him with one hand or arm. Story 24. My hobby is literally picking up small people, and 100 pounds feels like a cheat code level. I find less joy because of how easy it is. I would be concerned about my partner not being strong enough to do certain skills, and any lighter would be unhealthy even at 5 feet tall. You sound underweight and your ex is weak. Story 25. I am slightly taller than you and could lift one of you in each arm easily. He is definitely embarrassed by his failure and is trying to blame you instead. Story 26. While body mass index is a flawed measure for assessing if someone with a lot of muscle is overweight or not, you are officially underweight according to body mass index. The person did a poor job of lifting you and was frankly pathetic, then tried to call you fat because you are only a little bit underweight. You chose the easiest way to reach that weight to make him happy by losing him. This is much better than his 20-pound goal. Seriously, 20% of your body weight when already underweight would be absurdly dangerous. Story 27. This is hilarious. You know how weak you have to be to not be able to pick someone up that weighs 100 pounds. Story 28. Hi, I'm a 24-year-old male, 5 feet 1 inch tall in shoes because I basically stopped growing at 12. I don't know what I weigh, but I'm slim and not strong. Your ex-boyfriend is a dumbass and put you in danger due to drunken stupidity, and 100 pounds is not heavy for a grown woman. As for what I can lift, I know I can manage around 60 pounds by myself, but not much more than that. We have pump trolleys and forklifts at my workplace for moving heavy items. I can carry my 10-year-old cousin on my back for maybe a couple of minutes or so. Story 29. I do not even warm up with 100 pounds at literally no lift at all. The least I do is 125 pounds, and that is for warm-up only. You are certainly not the problem. Story 30. My wife weighs about 145 pounds. She always thinks she is going to hurt me when I pick her up. It is easy. My daughters combined weigh about 180 pounds. I can pick up both of them at the same time pretty easily. Story 31. Even if you cannot bench press 50-pound dumbbells in each hand to lift a person, you are using your legs, so it should be easy unless the person has never lifted anything. It is probably a technique issue. The person's weight is transferred directly to the ground through your legs. It is like standing on those little plastic white table supports that keep the pizza lid from touching the pizza, even though they are weak. Story 32. 80 pounds for you would be severely underweight. Just because he could pick you up at that weight does not mean it would be a healthy lifestyle change for you. Also, as a side thought, if he thought you should be 20 pounds lighter before he could pick you up, why did he try to do it in front of everyone? Story 33. That is just a weak man. My wife weighs between 115 and 120 pounds, and I can lift her easily if I want to. Story 34. I could lift you above my head with one arm. 100 pounds is barely heavier than a bag of concrete. Your ex was just self-conscious about how weak he is. Story 35. I am 180 pounds, and my wife is around 145 pounds. I have no problem picking her up. Looking at me, you can tell I can lift heavy because of my shoulders and torso. It depends on your body fat and age. A high school kid might have a difficult time picking a girl up, but a guy 21 years or older should be able to do it. Question. Did you lose a little respect for him? Story 36. Maybe he was not prepared for how hard it is to pick up a person. It is easy to pick up 100 pounds of weight. People are more difficult because of the weight distribution and how they shift around. Still, 100 pounds is not much. Story 37. He is the lucky one. Do you judge his entire worth based on strength? Think again. What you do not do is humiliate, judge, and define an entire person based on strength. Most comments I have seen here are disgusting and sexist. How much weight is considered heavy for you to lift? I am 5 feet 3 inches tall, 100 pounds, and my boyfriend has struggled to pick me up. We were all out in a group one night, and he ran to pick me up and dropped me in front of everyone. He also said I would be skinny at 80 pounds and then he could lift me. Is this really that heavy for a girl? I am kind of shocked. He is an ex now, by the way. For the people getting mad, I did not break up with him because of this. He cheated on me along with making comments about my weight. It had nothing to do with strength or me judging him for that. Story 38. 100 pounds is light work. My little brother is about that weight, and I love picking him up and throwing him every time I see him. That's on him for not being able to do it. Story 39. Oh, and he is an ex now, by the way. I believe he ended the relationship, but I think the rest is just you wanting to speak negatively about your former partner. Story 40. First, at 100 pounds, you are quite light. Second, it matters how he tries to pick you up. I can deadlift 100 pounds easily, but if you asked me to bicep curl it, I would probably break my arms. How did he try to pick you up? Story 41. Is he really inactive? My old job had me lifting 100 to 320 pounds constantly on my own for 11 hours, so I don't understand how weak someone must be to not even lift 100 pounds. I used to carry my drinking buddy Kyle on my back across town. He weighed 180 pounds and was like a sack of potatoes. Story 42. Sounds like he needs to work on his technique at the very least. Everyone knows you lift with the gluteus muscles. Story 43. 90 pounds is what I would consider heavy to lift. It depends on how high, what type of carry, and for how long. I have carried my 95-pound dog up a flight of stairs, but it was not fun. I am 32 years old, 6 feet tall, and weigh 160 pounds. Story 44. Your boyfriend needs to go to the gym. That being said, dead weight is very different from someone who is conscious and just wants to be carried. But 100 pounds is nothing. He really should not be struggling if he is bigger than you. Story 45. In human form, over 200 pounds is when things start to get difficult. It depends on how I am lifting. Grabbing by the legs is effortless. Carrying over the threshold requires grunting. Story 46. He should be able to pick you up, maybe struggle a bit to deadlift you, but if you are standing and he is picking you up from a standing position, that should not be hard. Unless you go limp as soon as he picks you up. That could cause even a strong person to drop you as the weight distribution and center of balance shift. Story 47. Have you ever tried to carry one of those storage benches? They are not heavy when empty, but I cannot carry it myself because of its shape. It is long and my arm cannot reach. I need someone to help me. You should help him carry you. If you are just being dead weight, it makes him heavier. Have you ever lifted a child awake and then tried to lift them when they are asleep? 100 pounds is a normal weight. Story 48. For me, 100 pounds is nothing. but I lived in the gym and played rugby for 20 years. Your average untrained person is naturally going to struggle more and be more injury-prone when trying to lift anyone or anything. Story 49. Picking up a person is not the same as picking up a barbell. People are oddly shaped and soft. You also do not mention your ages or his size. If he is 5 feet tall and 100 pounds, that is going to be a tough job for him. Even as a strong person with a deadlift of 400 pounds and a bench press of 200 pounds, my thin girlfriend feels heavier than her weight would on a barbell. That being said, he should not have made it about you. He should have brushed it off or made a joke at his own expense. Story 50. It sounds like your ex did not do anything except stay inside. No male who walks more than 100 steps a day would have any issue carrying you around like a backpack all day at 100 pounds. Story 51. 100 pounds on a bar is insignificant. A 100-pound sack of flesh can be awkward to handle. With that said, 100 pounds should be objectively liftable for a functioning adult male. Story 52. The weight comment was self-defense. Knowing that a human body's weight will shift when picked up is, I think, a point to be considered. If the person being lifted was staunchly straight and stiff, it would be more like lifting weights. A flexible body leaning or shifting the wrong way can throw the lifter off balance. Unfortunately, his comments targeted you and were misplaced. Story 53. Since girls underestimate their weight by about 30%, I am guessing it is more like 130 to 140 pounds. I could lift that because I can lift a generator that weighs more than that. Story 54. 5 feet 3 inches. 100 pounds is pretty petite. I am a 6 feet tall, 170 to 175 pounds man. I do not lift weights, but I can regularly lift my own weight and more. Lifting a person is entirely different than lifting a weight, which is a more condensed form of weight. However, the way he explained his reason for not being able to lift you was strange. Story 55. I do not train with weights regularly. I have an average build and perform repetitions of lifting that weight above my head. Story 56. 100 pounds is not heavy for a girl. If anything, you would benefit from gaining 10 pounds or so. Your ex was just weak, physically and mentally. Don't let his comments affect you. Story 57. I use 100-pound dumbbells for my arms. However, I would not try to lift more than that because I am not into heavy weights to begin with. Even if I were, I still would not lift more even if I could. I do enough with weights at the gym as it is. Story 58. Most people at 100 pounds are very thin. There are always exceptions, of course, but I would never consider 100 pounds heavy in the context of a human. Story 59. 5 feet 3 inches and 100 pounds is right in the middle of the healthy weight range for a woman. 80 pounds is underweight. He is an idiot. It depends on the man. If he is a teenager, which is my guess, he just has not finished puberty yet and has not developed any upper body strength. For a fully grown man, picking up 100 pounds generally is not hard. For a man who weight trains, it is very easy. Story 60. To be fair, humans are an awkward shape to lift. However, not being able to pick up 100 pounds is unfortunate. I am trying not to say anything too mean because I am fully aware that many people cannot lift 100 pounds. Still, 100 pounds is not much. Story 61. 100 pounds is quite light. It is not your fault he was not strong enough to pick you up. Most men you date will have no problem lifting 100 pounds. Story 62. 100 pounds for someone who is 5 feet 3 inches tall is about right. Most men can lift 100 pounds if there is a way to grab the weight with their hands and use their legs. The percentage of men who can lift that amount decreases with age and depends on the shape of the item being lifted. Just about anyone could lift a barbell or a milk crate-sized item that weighs 100 pounds. It becomes difficult when the shape is unusual, there is no good way to hold the weight, or the weight is held out in front of the body. A bag of concrete usually weighs 50 or 60 pounds. Soldiers are expected to carry 80 pounds, and most industrial hand tools weigh between 20 and 80 pounds. Examples include various saws or jackhammer sizes. This information should give you an idea of what the average weight is. There is no point in selling a product that few people can lift or use. Story 63. 5 feet 3 inches and 100 pounds is very thin for a woman. My friend is 5 feet 1 inch and 110 pounds, and she is thin. Personally, I curl more than this, so take that for what you will. Story 64. In all honesty, I could lift you easily at 100 pounds, but all men are different. I work in commercial audiovisual and have lifted 220-pound televisions before. Story 65. The heaviest woman I have carried weighed about 150 to 160 pounds. It was a challenge at first, and I surprised myself. I surprised her too. She said she had never been picked up like that before. I am not used to lifting people. I am tall and slim and sometimes feel weak. However, my job involves lifting heavy freight, and I have been trying to exercise more and gain some weight. Being 5 feet 3 inches and 100 pounds should be no problem. The man was probably just not built for lifting heavy things, or maybe he was just lazy. Story 66. It depends on the activity. If it is not a bench press, squat, or deadlift, then I would say heavy starts at around my body weight for most positions. Story 67. That's not heavy at all. I can dumbbell curl 85 pounds. I've carried 2 women weighing about 130 pounds each at the same time, one over each shoulder. My girl and her friend were drunk, and I had to get them to the car. I can also shoulder press 115 pounds in each hand. Quite frankly, you should have broken up with him because he is weak and couldn't protect you. It should never have gotten to the point where he could cheat. Story 68. I have picked up and carried a 250-pound man with a fireman's carry. Under the heavy influence of alcohol, I once picked up my girlfriend and did a bunch of buddy squats in the parking lot of a restaurant. She married me. Story 69. He sounds attractive and romantic to me. You don't know what you have until it's gone. I can bench press 80 pounds and I weigh 140 pounds at 5 feet 7 inches. I am strong in the gym. I wear a sweatband on my forehead, a tank top so the women in the gym can see my Macintosh Apple tattoo, Space Jam shorts, and knee-high socks to look more appealing. Planet Fitness allows me to bring my drink coolers so I can stay hydrated while lifting dumbbells. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.